Hello there. Good morning to you, all of you in Tamanujong, in Sramban Wesley. I have missed all of you, uncles, aunties, friends, pewmates, young people, little ones. It's been a long time since we have seen each other face to face. Since the MCO, we have all been kept apart, and I'm praying that as soon as God allows, we might be able to see each other face to face. How have you been? I know that while we have had different experiences during this MCO, our God has not been on lockdown. Our God has been in our homes, visiting with each one of us and doing something in our lives. And I hope that you have been attentive to what He has been doing. Mothers, today is Mother's Day. And I want to wish all mothers and mothering others happy Mothering Sunday. You people have been the ones who have left a deep, significant mark in all our lives, and we thank God for you. This morning, I want to invite you to re-invite you to experience again the extravagant, unexpected extravagance of God in our lives. The coronavirus has got everyone in its grip, the whole world in its grip, and it can sometimes feel like an exhausting interruption. You know, one of my friends, or I read it somewhere, said that the most worthless investment for 2020 is our planners. That, we wasted our time buying planners and writing down our appointments. Like for me, all my schedules, all the places I was supposed to fly to, they have been cancelled or postponed. So really a worthless investment. But I suspect that life itself, for many of us, even before the coronavirus, has already been exhausting because of our own agendas, our own ambitions, our own attractions and distractions. And right now, because we are under MCO, this could come more and more to our attention, making us or stirring up within us feelings of sometimes being interrupted or exhausted. We were dragged into the eye of the storm on the 13th of January. That was when we first began to hear of the coronavirus cases outside of China. Before the 13th, it was distant, it was in China, it was contained. But on the 13th of January, the first case was discovered in Thailand, and then soon after in Japan, and it began to just spread and infect so many countries. My friends, right now there are 3.5 million infections at least, and deaths, at least 270,000 deaths. We have been thrust into a situation of death surrounding us. So many people dying. And after a while, the pain gets too much. We just numb our hearts. Destruction and disruption. This is our situation. And we are left scrambling with grief. We are left scrambling with so many questions to God, questions to one another. questions about our future, questions about survival, and of course the changes. So right now, home can become a safe haven, a place to be quiet, to examine these things. Or life can become an imprisoning nightmare. Are we exiles at home? Some of us can be happy exiles. We feel safe, we forget the outside world, and we feel cut off from the danger out there. A temporary safety. But for many of my friends, they have been sharing how, they are struggling with their own identities because all this while they found their identity in their work, being a doctor, being a lawyer, being a businessman, and now they can't. And so they're at home struggling, doing nothing, and at the same time, worried about their security. Many are feeling robbed of our independence. Does the very fact that MCO has been declared makes us feel our freedom has been stifled? Exiles. Exiles are people who are cut off, who are sent away. You and I have been sent away into our homes. Exiles are robbed of freedom. Exiles are robbed very often of their dignity. They feel alone, abandoned, and any one of us can feel like exiles. Now, I want to invite you to think about these things as we look at scriptures. Friends, I would like you to overhear the irresistible offer being made to some exiles in Isaiah 55, verses 1 to 13. Let me speak the scriptures to us. Come, all who are thirsty, come to the waters. You who have no money, come, buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money, without cost. Why spend money on what is not bread and your labor on what does not satisfy? Listen to me and eat what is good, and you will delight in the riches of fare. Give ear and come to me. Listen, that you may live. I will make an everlasting covenant with you, my faithful love promised to David. See, I have made him a witness to the peoples, a ruler and commander of the peoples. Surely you will summon nations you know not, and nations you do not know will come running to you because of the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, for he has endowed you with splendor. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call on him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake their ways, and the unrighteous their thoughts. Let them turn to the Lord, for he will have mercy on them, and to our God, for he will freely pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. As the rain and snow come down from heaven and do not return to it without watering the earth and making it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater, so is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. You will go out with joy and be led forth in peace. The mountains and the hills will burst into song before you, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. Instead of the thorn bush will grow the juniper, and instead of the briars, the myrtle will grow. This will be for the Lord's renown, for an everlasting sign that will endure forever. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. My friends, this is an extraordinary invitation from the Lord Himself to the exiles. The people who were in lockdown in an alien country. But the beauty of it is, He got Isaiah to proclaim these words 150 years before the exiles returned. It was 100 years or lesser before they went into exile. And He already proclaimed their return. The unimaginable return that He had in mind for them. And that is the extravagant love that God has for His people and also for you and I. I hope that you are savoring together with me verses 1 to 5, because God is speaking to all the people who cannot afford, who are impoverished, who cannot afford to buy and eat. He's speaking to those who were nobodies, who were just captives and slaves, shunned. He was speaking to those who were humiliated and disgraced, stripped. And this is what He says in verse 1. Come, buy and eat. How to buy? No money. How to eat? And He invites us to eat and drink wine and milk, rich man's food. God is throwing a banquet for the very people who had turned their backs on Him. And He's saying, I have paid it. Yahweh has paid it. When the Messiah came, He paid it for you and I, Jesus. And He invites us in verses 3 and 4. I am making an everlasting covenant with you. You are a somebody because you belong to me, the great somebody. He clothes us and renews covenant with us. And then He actually clothes us with splendor. That's what verses 5 says. And it's because of that, we will become influential people. People will see and they will come running to see what is happening in their lives. A people who have been stripped will have splendor and influence, unimaginable invitation to return. Now, as we look at verses 6 to 8, this is an invitation to look for God, to look at God. Now, if you are looking at verse 6 with the scriptures open in front of you, you will see the verses say, seek the Lord while He may be found, and call on Him while He is near. Friends, this is our prodigal God. The God who does not stay away, who refuses to be locked out of our lives. He comes running toward us, wanting to be found by us. And especially in verse 7, for people who have turned away, who have fallen, he says, with mercy, I want you. I will freely pardon. There are second chances in life. And that was what the exiles needed to hear. They had completely rejected the Lord. And he wanted them to know he is willing to be this merciful God for them. Why? Because they are his. And then, verse 8 says what you and I really need to understand. No need to try and figure out God. No need to try and pay God back, because it says our God, he's a God of crazy offers. We will never be able to explain him nor his ways. His thoughts are not ours. He's just lavish and extravagant. And that is the offer of an unimaginable restart in our lives. All exiles included. The news only gets better in verses 9 to 13. My ways are not your ways. As high as the heavens are above the earth, so are my ways. Not like yours on earth. Friends, our God does not need or want to be understood by us. He just wants us to trust him and to embrace him and his work in our lives, because he has already put in a plan for your life and mine, a plan also to bring about restoration in all the lives of broken exiles, repentant exiles. And he's saying, embrace and trust me. Verse 9. And then in verses 10 to 11, he says, when the rain comes down, it waters the earth. It bears fruit. It does its work. It's very intentional. It gives forth, groweth. And then he says, so is every word that goes forth from my mouth. God will never be undermined by you or I, by our ambitions, by our own plans for our lives. He is a God whose every word and every work is intentional, and it will accomplish its work. But the best news of all, here are these exiles, nobodies with nothing, stripped. And then comes the promise in verse 12. You will go forth with joy and be led forth in peace. Shalom. Shalom, as I've often shared with you, are broken pieces held together, the fragmented lives of ours being held together. That is shalom. And God promises that joy and that peace. And to top off all that, he says, even the mountains and the hills will burst into song before you. And more than that, the thorn bush will become a juniper. The briar will become a myrtle. My friends, have you ever seen a thorn or a briar, which are both thorny bushes, becoming some other tree, like a juniper or a myrtle? God is talking about miracles that he can and he will give us, miracles that we never thought about. Why? And verse 13 loudly proclaims, for the Lord's renown. This is for the Lord's glory. When people look at us and what God has done in our lives, it will be for his glory. So never underestimate God. He is a God of restoration, freedom, miracles, reversals, and my friends, that is an unimaginable restoration that God promises for us. I began by talking about how sometimes we feel exhausted by the interruptions of our life. But this morning the scriptures are inviting us not to look at our exhaustion, but inviting us to look at who God is, the one who gives us this unimaginable return, the unimaginable restart, the unimaginable restoration. It is about God, and the God who gives us irresistible offers. And that's how you and I can keep on being invigorated, have new life, and it can endure in our lives only when we keep coming to God. Talking about enduring invigoration, I want to tell you about the woman that my mother was. My mother, many of you would know, was the headmistress of ACS Primary for quite a number of years. And her first love was always being a teacher. And of course, her second love, which flowed closely after, is that she loved being involved in different societies in our community. Whether it was the welfare, whether it was the handicapped society or sports bodies, she was there. My mother was left shell-shocked when my father died, leaving her with 3 young children. I was 9, my brother was 10, my sister was 11. But what carried her through was this extravagant lavishness of God in her life. She would go out to school every day. She would be serving society out there, and she would come back very tired. But at the same time, she would have the energy left to be able to be present to her 3 children. She would ask us what was our day like, and she would hear our stories. She would help us with our homework. But when the day was closing, I would see her open the doors of our government house and step out into the veranda. And she would begin her miles of walking with the Lord for at least an hour or more. There I would see her features, her face, pouring out her love for God. There I would see her face, pouring out her fears before God. There I would see her concerns being brought before the throne of heaven. And usually she would go out tired. She would go out sometimes anxious. But when she walked back into the home, into the hall, her face would be invigorated. She would be renewed, and there would be strength for a new day, hope for tomorrow. This woman of poise out there could only be that because of her posture at home, the posture of being poor, the poverty of heart that she had before her Maker, because she knew He could give her miracles. He would provide for her 3 children to grow up and to go through school and to be able to go through higher education. She knew this God personally. He never left her. He was the miracle giver in her life. This is the ripples of God in my mother's life. And I'm sure that you are remembering right now the ripples that God made in the lives of your parents, or your own lives, or in lives of friends. This is the enduring invigoration. The Lord longs to give us. My friends, posture matters. How do we come to this God who has given this irresistible offer? Poverty of heart. My friends, the willingness to come at every turn of our life to this God and say, God, help me. God, I'm a nobody. God, I need you. And the longing to be redone, this hunger, insatiable hunger to allow God to redo, to make over our lives. And it will mean that we come empty-handed. It's a humbling empty-handedness with nothing to offer, no qualification, only poverty of heart. Then we undergo Yahweh's makeover in our life. As we come with poverty of heart, He is ready to give us a new makeover. But first, He will invite us. Invite us to clean house. I'm sure during MCO, a lot of us were cleaning house, decluttering, throwing away stuff. God will invite us to clean house by inviting us to have the courage to return to the hard places in our lives, to revisit the pain, to look at the sin in our lives, to look at the distortions and to bring them before Him so that He can help us to get rid of these things. And then we will find He will clothe us with Himself, with His love, raising us up as His people. This will be a covenant renewal He makes with us and we make with Him. Yahweh's makeover will result, yes, in painfulness as we revisit the hard places, but it will result in crazy joy amidst the harsh realities, because we will find God giving us miracles in places where we were so impoverished we never thought we could go on. God gives us new life. Yahweh's makeover. Isaiah 55 verse 13 says, "And this will be for the Lord's renown." My friends, when God makes these changes in us, when we are transformed, when we are renewed, when we revel in His extravagant love, my friends, you and I automatically, we become like cathedrals of hope. Cathedrals, as I have once shared before with you, cathedrals are places that have history in them. If you walk into a cathedral and you see the stained glass windows, often they tell you the story of God, either from Old Testament or New Testament. It will be painted in the stained glass. And in some places, especially in famous places, there will also be stained glass stories of what happened in that place, of how God helped that place. My friends, this is what will finally happen if we allow the Lord to come into our lives. We become cathedrals of hope, hosting God's story of what He has done in our lives. And then we become safe places. We offer safe places to other exiles looking for hope, looking for God. We offer them the safe places to come in. And automatically our lives shine forth this hope of a God who lavishly gives us crazy offers, who loves us crazily. What more can I say, friends? When we have that poverty of heart, Yahweh, in His extravagance, will come and give us a new makeover. Grace, mercy, miracles of joy. Then you and I, surely we can become those cathedrals of hope in our households, in our neighborhoods, in our society. Once again, to all the mothers and mothering others, blessed Mother's Day. And to the rest of us, may the good Lord go with you now and always. Blessings.